So, James Brandenburg, the chapter chair for Arkansas Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. Um, I got into hunting. Let's see, my oldest son is 23, and he was 9 the first time he went hunting. And so it was 10, 12 years ago is when I got into it. So I have 3 boys, and I my oldest son was taken by my father-in-law and my brother-in-law on their property up in Missouri, where my wife grew up. Then my middle son is 2 years behind him, and he wanted to hunt. So I have a father-in-law and a brother-in-law, and I have 3 boys, and I could just tell they were all 3 going to want to hunt. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to need to get into this a little bit, and I was interested in it anyway. So I did the online hunter safety thing and started hunting with my boys, and we basically learned how to hunt together. I mean, my in-laws uh, gave me some pointers and sent us out on the property. It wasn't any kind of mentored thing at all. It was a lot of me bumbling around there. Basically about 80 acres of what they have. We hunted a little bit on the other side of the road, which is another 70 acres. So, but most of it was us just running deer from one end of that 80 acres to the other while we were trying to figure stuff out. So that was what, 12 years ago that I started. And from there, um, ended up just kind of getting into more and more things. 2017, 2018, I talked some buddies into, instead of us getting together in the fall every year and just going to Oktoberfest in Herman, Missouri, I said, hey, there's only a few of us doing this anymore. Let's go. We all hunt. Let's go on an adventure. And so 2018, we went to Wyoming and hunted pronghorn. And that was really my first kind of travel to hunt experience. And later that year, I was getting more and more involved with BHA, and it's just led to me kind of getting deeper and deeper and deeper into hunting. So at this point, I'm still just a novice at a lot of things. I don't care enough about horns or trophies or anything to be super dedicated to any one thing. I just love to be outside. Yeah, and so I really haven't had um, a ton of mentors. The first, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years really was just me going to my in-laws' place and hunting deer and reading reading magazines. At that time is Field and Stream, Outdoor Life. Um, I had I had lots of friends who hunted, but it wasn't why we were friends, if that makes sense. And so I'd pick up little things from people, but really, you know, in terms of talking about strategy and ideas, I, my first mentors would have been my father-in-law and my brother-in-law, and um, and they gave me a lot of good pointers, especially for where I was hunting, because me and my father-in-law had been hunting there since the 70s, and my brother-in-law grew up hunting there. And so, like, pretty much with the exception of one stand on that property, my brother-in-law has selected every stand site. Now I've hunted different places and I've killed deer in different places on it at this point, but I used to just go to the places where he would say, and that's where I would hunt. Um, So really, they were. If I had to say who my first mentors were, would be them. And the thing that still stands out to me that I still tell myself to this day as I'm hunting is something my father-in-law told me, which was like when you're slipping through the woods and you're looking for deer, he said, you're not looking for a whole deer. You're looking for a piece of a deer. You're looking for a horizontal line where there shouldn't be a horizontal line, or a color that shouldn't be where that color is. And those are the things, that's a lesson that stuck with me. When I really finally remind myself to slow down and look, I remember that lesson and I start looking for the things that don't belong compared to everything else that I'm seeing. So that's probably the legacy that I'll have from them. It's not like I ever went and sat with either one of them and hunted. You know, I didn't grow up sitting in anybody's lap hunting, but I remember that specific thing, and it's still to this day like what doesn't matter what I'm hunting, I'm always trying to find the thing that doesn't belong in the tree or in that group of trees or whatever it is. I'm a self-described generalist hunter. Um, I've never killed a deer that I felt like I needed to get measured. The only deer that I've ever put a tape measure to is that one up there, which my son killed, and it was just a curiosity factor. Um, and he was 11 years old, I think, when he shot it. So so my hunting resume is, I just don't hold out for the biggest thing. I like to put food in the freezer. I've I've hunted whitetails and pronghorn, black bears, waterfowl, so ducks and geese both. Of course, squirrels and rabbits and stuff like that. Um, Trying to think if there's anything else. Pheasants. I've been on a few pheasant hunts and quail hunts. We have a bird dog now, which is a byproduct of having a son who's obsessed with waterfowling. Um, and so my resume is I just like to go do it. And then, the other thing where I spend a ton of time is trying to make sure at this point, uh, I spend more time trying to make sure that other people have opportunity through what I do for backcountry hunters and anglers. Um, I'm a I'm a very big advocate based on the things that I've learned as part of BHA. I'm an advocate for access in whatever form it's going to take. It can be public access to private land, it can be totally public land, it can be asking for permission. We didn't used to have to ask for permission to hunt, and this was before my generation, or maybe even people in my generation, but it was before I started to hunt. People just went and kind of roamed and did, and with private land rights and people's heightened awareness about that today, kids can't just do that anymore, and it creates a barrier for people to get into hunting. So I spend a lot of time trying to understand what the barriers are for people to enjoy hunting, what kicks them out of hunting, and then to the extent that I can, you know, just trying to speak up for people who maybe otherwise don't have a voice in that, and need somebody to speak up for whatever their piece of public land is, however big it is, or where they fish. Doesn't hunting and angling either one. That's probably what my resume is. That's probably all my resume will ever be. Because I'm going to go on an elk hunt hopefully this fall. I've applied for one in Wyoming. I don't know if I'll get it or not, but I I don't have these big lofty dreams to scale mountains or anything like that. Like there's tons of adventure right here. There's more adventure within a couple hours drive of me right here than what I'll be able to take advantage of in my lifetime. And I'm content for the most part to seek that adventure and live it. Probably it's one of two things. The easy thing for me to say would be proficiency with my weapon because it requires constant attention. When I did that pronghorn hunt, I spent uh, the entire year leading up to it practicing long range shooting. And then when I got out there, I screwed up every shot that I took. I mean, I had everything that I shot at and hit, I recovered. So that's the good news part of it. But the buck that I shot, it was a rodeo. I hit him. I hit him back. Had to track him for a mile just behind him while he was walking away. He never ran away, but I, took multiple shots for me to get him down. Felt horrible about it. The guide was great, kept me calm, but the doe that I shot was also not a great shot, but at least she didn't run. Um, and I've had the same. I've had great shots on deer, like snapshots that just dropped them, and I've had chip shots on deer that I have completely screwed up. It eats at me, and yet practicing is the thing I need to do the most, and I have the hardest time finding to do. So the easy answer to that is proficiency with my weapon. The other part of it though is getting over my own self-doubt or resistance to acquiring a new skill. So I'll give you a couple examples of this. When I decided that I was going to bear hunt, I had to get better at hiking and packing because the place I wanted to hunt was an area that was hard to access in the national forest. So I had to be comfortable hiking around, carrying my bow. I also had to get better at bow hunting. So I had dabbled with bow hunting, but I had to get good enough with bow hunting to do it. I had to get comfortable enough packing an animal out. Like I had to, and the only way to do that is the only way to get comfortable with it is to actually do it, right? So I had to go kill and pack. But I had to do all of that. Another example would be with duck hunting. I've had to, get comfortable with figuring out where to go, carrying decoys, how to handle the dog. That's been kind of fun, so that hasn't been as big of a hurdle. But then I decided that one of the things that was keeping me from doing fun stuff was that I was scared of driving a boat because I'd never driven a boat before. So I bought a 16-foot John boat and taught myself how to get it off the trailer and get it on the trailer and how to drive it around. And I haven't really done much duck hunting out of it. I've fished out of it some, and I enjoy just the freedom that I have to have a little boat, go out and do what I want to do. And so all of that kind of rolls up to knowing I don't know how to do something and then dedicating myself to doing it. That's probably not a typical answer that people would give, but for me, as I've evolved as a hunter, I've chosen to try to acquire new skills each year so that I have just more opportunities to do that generalist stuff. And it's fun to me because there's new gear, there's new skills, there's new places to go, and it's a cool way to knock down a barrier. My 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 favorite stuff has probably evolved over time because um it's been the food aspect of it for sure. Like if somebody, even, I mean, right now, uh if somebody was like, "Look, I want to take you on a hunt and you get to shoot the biggest bucks you've ever seen in your life, but you don't get to bring the meat home." I'm not going. So to me, it's very important. Like, I want the meat. So my son and I did a guided hunt in Nebraska 2 or 3 years ago, and the the standard thing was, we're gonna breast the ducks out and pack them for you. And I was like, I want my ducks plucked. I'll pluck them myself if I have to. I'll pay to have them plucked. And they were like, oh, now we got somebody in town who will pluck them for, whatever the money was. Well, between the two of us, I think we shot, so 20, I want to say 20, maybe we brought home 20 ducks. It was a 3-day hunt. There's two of us and a 6 duck limit. So 3 times 2 is 6 times 6. Yeah. So, I mean, I want to make sure we weren't over our limit, right? Um, well, the guy in town wasn't plucking ducks anymore. And so we ended up paying one of the one of the outfitter's helpers. He was helping the outfitter, but he was a phenomenal photographer and just all around guy that was doing whatever needed to be done. People probably follow him on YouTube today. If I said his name, people would know who he is. We paid that kid to pluck our ducks because, like, if I just couldn't live with myself just bringing home the breasts. So the answer to your question, at times it's been food. But if it was just food, why in the world would I go drive 2 or 3 hours away on the possibility that I might see ducks and maybe shoot one or two and bring them back and just feel immensely satisfied with the whole day, right? So it can't just be the meat. It's got to be the experience of being outside, of interacting with the animals. I mean, that's probably part of the reason why I like bow hunting on the ground as much as I do. I killed a deer on the ground two been 2 years ago, I think, 2 deer seasons ago, and like grunted at him. He came in, and I thought for sure he was either going to see me and attack me or see me and run off. And I shot him, and with my bow, I had to go back in and find him. It was one of the most thrilling things I've ever done. I mean, and that includes the bear hunt, because the bear was close too on the ground. So it's just being out there. I think, I just love to be outside challenging myself. That's, if I have to pick one thing, it's probably being outside challenging myself to match wits with a critter that I want to bring home and eat. And it very much does not want to come home with me to be eaten, you know, and everything that entails, the suffering, the joy, the, the physical difficulties you go through. I want all of it. I want all of that every time I go hunting. You don't get it every time you go hunting, but I want all of it every time. My favorite place to hunt in Arkansas. is where I bear hunted. Because even though I didn't discover it, I didn't name it, I didn't, I'm not the only person who hunts there, but I feel like it's my place. It's not mine, it's public land. I'm not going to say where it is. It's in the national forest somewhere. But it feels like my place. And every time I get to the trailhead and I get my boots in the woods there, I feel like I'm on familiar ground with an opportunity to learn something completely new, if that makes sense. And so that's probably my favorite place to hunt in Arkansas. More generally, anywhere that I can go and do that thing, just put my boots on the ground and go look for adventure, is my favorite place to be. So whether that's, I mean, around here, I hunt Missouri and Kansas from time to time for different things. I hunt Missouri, because my in-laws have property up there, but I also duck hunt up there. I've turkey hunted up there. That's the other thing. I guess I didn't even say turkeys earlier. But yeah, uh, anywhere I can put my boots on the ground, and that actually brings me back to um, a mentorship story that's worth telling. So I had mentioned my fraternity brothers that I would get together with in the fall. There was three of us that hunted, that decided that we were going to go do other stuff. One of them was a big turkey hunter, and we had talked about it a bunch. And I had turkey hunted some, but was no good at it. Again, nobody to show me what to do or where to go. So I basically asked him to take me, and he said he would. Now at this point, he was 2 or 3 years after being diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. So he was getting to the end of what everybody knew what his life was going to be. Like, he had a certain life expectancy, but he committed to take me. And as we got closer to the time to go, like, he almost died from eating a corn chip. Like, it tore his esophagus and he almost bled out. And he called me like right before I was supposed to meet up with him and said, "Hey, just want to let you know we may not be able to go quite as hard. I've been in the hospital." And he told me the whole story of what happened. And I was like, "Cole, we do not have to go turkey hunting. I mean, I can come up there and we can hang out, whatever." He's like, "What am I going to do? Sit here and wait to die? We're going turkey hunting." So he took me to his place that he had. He had property up in northern Missouri. And over the course of those 2 days, we hiked around his family's property. We listened for turkeys that at first weren't there. He introduced me to some of his family, which when we pulled up to their place, there were 7 gobblers in their yard. And he was like, "Yeah, my uncle won't let me hunt them." We talked about life and death and the wife and daughter he was leaving behind. And we woke up on the last morning that we could hunt, hearing gobblers at the place where we were, jumped into our clothes as fast as we could and ran to where they were. And he called in 2 jakes, and I shot my first turkey. And he did all that for me while he was dying. And then we sat there while I plucked the turkey, which he never would have done. he thought it was a waste of time, but he sat in the shade while I plucked that turkey and basically talked about the end of his life that he knew was coming and how scared he was about what he was leaving behind. And left me with this incredible gift of way more than hunting a turkey, right? So that was a mentorship that almost didn't happen, but I still remember it. Like I'll always have that memory with me, and every year I carry the spurs from that turkey. I carry them with me. I mean, they were this long. They're nubs, right? and but I carry all that with me. I carry those spurs with me in my pack, and when I need help, I'll be like, "Hey, Cole, come on, there's nothing showing up. Help me out here." It doesn't work very often, and that's how Cole was. He had to give me the middle finger, but um, yeah, I mean that's besides my father-in-law, giving me advice. That's the best mentorship story that I have. So hopefully draw this elk tag in Wyoming. That was an adventure to try to figure out where we wanted to go. So hopefully it'll be, if I draw the elk tag, then my hunting goals for 24 will be have a great adventure hunting elk in Wyoming. I really want to bring an elk home if if I'm burning the points and the time and the money. I want to bring an elk home, but we went into it saying we want to have a good adventure, and that's our main goal. So we were careful about who we picked for an outfitter. Um, Aside from that, um, you know, I'll be I'll be out there practicing with my bow. Um, Try to get a bear hunt in. I did a bear bait last year for the first time, and I had a bear coming to the bait, just never when I was there. Um, I don't know if I'll do that again. I don't know if I'll have the opportunity to do it, but I'll definitely try to bear hunt this fall some. I'll deer hunt, try to put another deer in the freezer. I always try to do that. And then, apart from that, I want to start hunting with my kids. My oldest son's 23 now, so he's out of the house and working. My middle son's 21, he's in college, and my youngest son's 18 and in college. Last year was my first year not having a hunting buddy in the house. And so what I'd like to do this year is plan at least one adventure with each one of my kids, um, to just get back to that. Just remember what it used to be like, um, and also not have to carry all the crap for them. They can carry their own stuff now. My best piece of advice is to just go. Doesn't have to be perfect. It never will be perfect. You'll never have every piece of gear. You'll never feel like you're entirely ready. You'll never be for sure where you want to go. That never stops. Like I've been hunting, like I said, for 10 or 12 years. I've been hunting the same property since I started. I still can't decide where I want to go, you know, tomorrow. If somebody said, "Hey, you get to hunt deer tomorrow," I'd have two or three choices and I'd agonize over it. You know, it's never going to be perfect. So just go. And then once you're out there, just enjoy being there. You don't have to answer the phone. You don't have to kill anything. You don't you don't have to feel any pressure from yourself or anybody else. From You don't have to measure up against any other hunter. um, we don't have to hunt to survive. We don't have to hunt for food now. And so we can hunt for the enjoyment of being there. And that's the gift that any new hunter should give themselves, is permission to enjoy the process, enjoy learning about it, enjoy the suffering. Because there's no good story that ever starts with the weather conditions were perfect that day and the deer ran right out in front of me and I had it quartered and out within 10 minutes and it was the lightest load ever. Like, those aren't the fun stories to tell. The fun stories to tell are the deer was quartering hard towards me. I took a shot I shouldn't have taken. I mortally wounded the deer. I went back in to get it after dark. I found it. Unfortunately, coyotes had gotten to it. I had to quarter it up and pack it out. It was like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning before I got back to the truck. Man, I loved killing that deer on the ground. Those are the stories, right? Just go live those stories, and then accumulate them and have them to tell. That'd be my advice. Because I can't not hunt. Um, I, I grew up playing golf from the time I was 5 years old. So, that, for what a lot of people will talk about in hunting, how they wanted to tag along with their dad so bad. And when they finally got old enough to do that, um, you know, they did that with their dads. Well, for me and my dad, it was golf. I wanted to be like my dad. I wanted to golf like my dad, and I still enjoy playing golf. I don't do it very much anymore, partially because of injuries that I've had, and partially because I like to be in the woods hunting and just different reasons. Um, so I was always outside, and I was aware of the natural surroundings. When I got into high school and I was playing high school golf, that here in Arkansas, it used to be in the springtime. And so, and I grew up here in Bentonville, so we played in Bella Vista, and the golf course that we played on, like, as the high school golf team, like, we could go out, we went out after school and played, and we could play until dark. So the longer the spring went, the later I could stay playing golf, and I would just stay out there until I couldn't see the ball anymore, and just watch the sun go down and see how things changed and how the dew fell on the grass and it got cool. And so I always was paying attention to what was going on outside. It was a different kind of environment, but once I started hunting, I just fell in love with being outside. And and I just found myself fixing, if that's the right way to say it, um, not problems. That's not the right way to say it, but just like fixing or healing or feeling restored is probably the right way to say it, by having those adventures of being outside. Whether it was, you know, something as easy as taking a 22 and just going and hiking around in the woods looking for squirrels, or, you know, getting up at 2:30 in the morning to go drive somewhere to duck hunt, and walk in somewhere to be at the spot when you needed to be at the spot so you could hunt where you wanted to hunt. As easy as hard as you want to make it, just something that gets there's some reason why I need to be out there doing that. And when the season closes, like, I'm worn down from some things, but I'm also sad that I don't get to go do it anymore for a while. And so I just can't not do it. Maybe someday I won't have that feeling, but I'm still such a new hunter at it. I'm a new hunter in a almost 50-year-old's body, and it's a weird feeling because I'm still full of wonder and learning and thirst for knowledge. And I know there's places that I just won't be able to go. Um, like I said, I don't have that desire to kill myself to get to the top of the mountain to to hunt a doll sheep or something like that. I just don't have enough anymore. Maybe if I started when I was 25, I would have. Um, but so it's a weird feeling to still want to learn as much as I can, but also be satisfied with where I am, and just still kind of realize that there's so much more out there, so much more to learn. And every September 1st, it really for me starts at September 1st. I get it. You can hunt turkeys in the spring. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I know you can hunt squirrels a lot of the year, but when September 1st comes and it's dove season, that's when it starts for me. That's when I want to be out there, whether it's hot or cold. I want to be outside. Just can't not do it. That's how it is.